You may be hearing all these stories out there from the lib media about how Ron DeSantis is banning books. Oh my gosh, the books are all being banned. And this may conjure up, if someone were to hear this and not know the context, that there are, DeSantis stormtroopers going around to different bookstores and they go into Barnes and Noble and they just grab a whole stack of stuff and no. None of that is actually happening, as you all know. But the way the media talks about it is meant to be as much a lie as, say, they're calling the parental rights in education bill in Florida the don't say gay bill. They're just lying. And it doesn't even say gay in the bill. So how could it be a don't say gay bill? Point being here, folks, the propaganda that they are deploying against the DeSantis efforts here is of the most dishonest and disgraceful kind. And he's had enough of it. And as is his habit, he is taking the fight to the media on this. So let's discuss what's going on here. There are schools out there that in Florida and in many states, by the way, if you're living in a red state, you're probably thinking, oh, that's something that no, it's happening in your state too. It's happening all over the country. What you find is that there are books that are highly inappropriate for children that are in the classroom. And this keeps happening. We had Carol Markowitz on yesterday. She's got a great book, Stolen Youth, which everybody should check out. She goes into this. And Ron DeSantis, to prove this point, it's not about banning a book as in we don't think this should be sold on Amazon or we think that this should be, burned in a pile in the backyard and nobody should ever be allowed to see this. People want to write, weird, trashy, gross books or novels. There, that's on them. Publishers want to publish it. That's on them. But when it comes to what children see, I think we can all agree there should be some editorial hand in protecting them from deeply, not just deeply political, deeply sexualized agenda items. And this is where Ron DeSantis was in, he was in Tampa yesterday. And he started reading from there was a presentation about some of these books that have been banned. Play 21.
When they try to say that somehow like the book's being, quote, banned, like adults can do what they want on this stuff. That's available for everybody. Some of that stuff would not be entertaining for me, but that's fine. I mean, you have the ability as an adult to make your decisions. But 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, to have that thrust in them is not something that's appropriate. And, also Manny just mentioned, they try to, whatever they can use a cudgel against me just because I'm a target. That's fine.
Clay, they're going after him. As I understand it, yesterday they were reading from some of these books and the media organizations had to pull away because of how graphic some of the content was.
Yeah, and again, I just think Republicans are not doing a good job of explaining on this. And I don't really think it's very complicated. And I've been saying this, but I know a lot of staffers out there listen. I know a lot of politicians themselves, as they're out driving around in their districts, they'll listen to this show, and we appreciate that. This is not a censorship story. It is being conveyed as if it is a censorship story. What really is going on is there is a decision being made about what age-appropriate books should be available, in particular in elementary school libraries. And if you put it in the context, that's why I just immediately pull it out and say, put it in the context of movies. No one ever argues R-rated movies are being banned from kids, right? Most young kids don't see R-rated movies because the parents look, oh, that's a rated R movie. It's probably inappropriate for my 6 or 7-year-old. But I, as an adult, may go to that movie. That's all that's going on here is parents are looking and saying, this is not a book that belongs in a library. And I give credit to the DeSantis camp for coming out and reading some of these books and literally making some of this live video cut away because it's FCC violations potentially for them to be sharing some of it. If you can't put it on a local television broadcast, then it probably isn't appropriate for a second or third grader, or God forbid, a first grader to be reading. And that is all that's going on here. And when people understand that, that's the job of parents. We have to decide what is age appropriate for our kids. It's one of the most important jobs that we have.
I think we could just call these common sense pornographic material restrictions. Let's come up with a term, because that's what this is. It is restricting by age access to material that is highly, highly sexualized. To your point, you could do the same thing. You bring it up with movies. Would it be honest if somebody said that enforcing a 21 to buy alcohol law, is that banning alcohol? It's not banning alcohol. It's saying that people of a certain age can, you haven't banned alcohol. No book has been banned. So the word ban we should ban the use of the word ban in this context because it's a lie. And if you want to know some of the books that are, the New Yorker is trying to write, the New Yorker is just left-wing propaganda with bigger words than you usually see. And they try to pick out some of the books that are included in this. So, there's some of the stuff that has been called into question is the very explicit content in books like the 57 Bus, which is a nonfiction young adult book about an agender teenager whose skirt gets set on fire by another teen, and The Hate You Give, a popular fiction story about the aftermath of the shooting of a young black man by a white police officer. I mean, you're assigning this stuff to kids in the 6th grade? I don't know. I think there's better stuff to be assigning children who are still learning to read at a high level and still learning to process information and need to learn history and literature and reason and logic. No, let's have them read about imaginary people being shot in racist murders by white police officers. This is the stuff that's being pulled out of the schools.
This idea that books are being banned, it sends the message of, oh, there's somebody as they try to bring a book into Florida that's stopping a truck and like pulling books off and burning them. No, parents are making decisions about what their kids should read. I'm like a lot of parents out there, I imagine, Buck, where I'm begging my kids to read all the time. The rule in the Travis household is if you bring a book in to me in a bookstore and I look at it and, it's age appropriate, right? And you're willing to read it, I'll buy it because I'm desperately trying to get my kids to read. And some of them read really well, and other ones we set an alarm for 20 minutes and it feels to them like it's 20 hours. And I know there's a lot of parents out there who understand this, but this is a real issue that's going on. We got a caller out there. One of the cities that we're number one in right now is Louisville, Kentucky. Steve, you ran for the school board in Louisville based on this issue specifically. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that I was finding is opposition to the removal of these books seems to be focused on the characters in the book. And the point that I tried to make to parents, we don't oppose the identity of the characters in the books. We oppose the content. Excuse me. An example that I gave was, I don't approve of 50 Shades of Grey being in schools for middle schoolers, but I'm not anti-heterosexual people. I don't oppose, or I do oppose books that depict sexual acts and nudity in all books. It doesn't matter if the characters are straight, bi, gay, or whatever.
Yes, no, they're trying to hide behind the notion that this is some kind of bigotry, because if you have extremely explicit sexual content presented to a 6th grader or a 3rd grader, but it involves a pansexual or non-heteronormative, non-cisgender, asexual, furry, I don't know. I mean, there's all these different designations. By the way, there are I just found out from a friend of mine, Catalina Lauf. She just told me yesterday that she went to a school board meeting up in Illinois when she was running for Congress, and that there are kids showing up at school dressed as furry animals. This is a thing. And I was like, how is this? And what's the craziest part of it isn't just that kids do this. It's that they're then arguing this is a part of my identity, and the school is terrified to do anything about it. I asked her 3 times. I'm like, look, you're running for Congress. Are you serious about this? She said, yeah, this happens now. That there are kids who show up and they say, I'm a tiger, and I expect to be treated with tiger dignity. And this is a thing now. And I think there's actually a comedian, Sebastian Maniscalco, did a whole thing on this, that even at his school, there was some kid who showed up and said he's like a lion or something, and they're all supposed to refer to the kid as a lion, and the teachers are so terrified / brainwashed that they go along with this stuff, or they're afraid they're going to be sued if they don't. Clay, the real issue here for the left with all of this stuff is parents are waking up to someone chooses what books your kids read. It can either be something you have input in that parents know about, or you can leave it to the left-wing commissars of the teachers' unions who are at the beck and call of the activist class that thinks a drag queen story hour for 5-year-olds is a great learning opportunity.
I think Carol Markowitz yesterday with us, Buck, did a really good job answering a question, because on this drag show aspect, I watch these videos and it's always white women, moms, who are taking their kids to these drag shows. And I just think about it from the perspective, as I said with her yesterday, if I were a dad and I took I have an 8-year-old. If I took my 8-year-old to a sex themed straight striptease show, right? Normal heterosexual woman comes out like in a normal strip club that's very popular, I hear, dressed scandalously and dances around as a stripper would in a heterosexual male strip club. If I took my second grader to that show, I would probably get charged with a crime. And it would be so foreign to me as a dad to even think to do that it would be crazy. I just point out, Clay,
they wouldn't even let you in. It wouldn't be legal for you to bring your second grader in, right?
Correct.
So it's not even like it's a discretion
thing. But they also
would.
There aren't like stripper brunches for dads, right? Is what I'm saying. Like, you can't go to like, hey, I'm going to go get waffles and I'm going to take my 8-year-old, and then there's going to be a stripper, heterosexual stripper, and all these dads are going to go, and we're just going to go with our little kids and we're going to think it's normal. Women are doing this. And I watch these videos and I think to myself, how in the world are these moms making the decision? And Carol hit on it. They're trying to prove how inclusive they are and how much they love the LGBT community. And it's become so inclusive that somebody stripping in front of a 6-year-old at a brunch is considered normal for these white women. It's not. It's crazy.